So I just got through listening to a radio program on which there was the public relations director for I think it was the American Atheist Society. Pretty sure that was it.
Ah, Danielle Muscato. She's been pretty busy, I hear, following the whole controversy around the billboard of a child asking Santa not to go to church anymore. So, what's she been up to?
And they have out a new campaign, like they do every Christmas, basically telling people that what they believe is a lie, and they should just stay home and not bother with it, and
That's never really been the American atheist stance, at least what I've got from it. They typically help reach out to closeted atheists at this time of year, letting them know that they are not alone at a time where they're constantly bombarded with exclusive religious iconography amongst the far more inclusive and today far more secular pagan festives. I've only known them to be supportive of non-believers during the winter solstice, so it's pretty out of character. But I tell you what, I will go to the archives of Medved and grab the audio from the 4th of December, second hour. But it apparently says it's still going on. Why? I have no idea. I checked this on the 5th, today. But anyway, I decided to check how easy the podcast would be to access tomorrow. Membership block. Well, okay, then I'll just sign up for an account and get it that way. Not happening. I'm not paying for a quack. But nor am I going to back down. I'm just going to have to take what you say with a pinch of salt. Ultimately, it gives you the advantage, but I'm still going to argue against what you have to say, even after you've presented what supposedly happened.
Obviously it's pretty offensive to a lot of people, and
So you take offence to a group of people reaching out to their peers from a group which has been unfairly marginalised during the previous century as the most aggressive, most violent, most untrustworthy and cruel individuals, whilst having one of the lowest crime rates of any demographic. And that's proportionally. If that offends you, then I do not apologise on their behalf. I'm not going to apologise for people trying to reach out to people who have been stigmatised.
Michael Medved was asking him, that's the show I was watching, or listening to, what is it about the Judeo-Christian and Christianity in particular, which they really seem to hate, that you have such a problem with? And he basically goes down a list of moral indictments that he has against Christianity and all religions, basically, but he's specifically citing Christianity as being something that he hates. And among his moral arguments, he feels like because we're usually against gay marriage, or we feel like homosexuality is a sin, he thinks that, I guess, religious wars and just the standard things that a lot of atheists throw out there as their objections.
And the point is, I have a suspicion as to where this is going, but so far all you have said is an atheist was asked a question and he responded.
But what I noticed is that he uses the argument for the appeal to morality a lot.
Wait, what? An appeal to morality how? An appeal to morality, aka a moralistic fallacy, follows the thought that if X is not morally desirable as it causes Z, i.e. X is bad, then X is not natural. All that is viewed as immoral is classed as unnatural. The issue with this is that nature, frankly, doesn't give a damn about your morality. It's sort of like a reversed naturalistic fallacy, which goes, this is natural, therefore this is good. It's sort of like the reverse of that. The question you presented, however, was why does Danielle Muscato view Christianity as an issue worth tackling? Not why does Danielle Muscato reject the claims of the Christian religion, which is an entirely different question with an entirely different answer, i.e. the complete lack of evidence for any God, let alone the internally contradictory God of the Bible. The two questions are not the same. One is a question on oughts, i.e. why do you act? You act because you feel. The other is a question on is, i.e. what is or how is the universe? The question asked was value-based. Therefore, it received a value-burdened response. This is not a fallacy.
And that's something I notice a whole lot with atheists. They tend to make a lot of moral denouncements on other people. If you don't believe that that homosexuality is good and right and natural, then you're evil.
Because, fact A, it has been shown to be natural. Yet that alone is not what excuses it. Fact B, i.e. it is not a choice in any way, and fact C, i.e. it affects nobody besides the consenting adults partaking of it, are what excuses it. The fact that you do not have the right to deny others their rights based off what they choose to say or do within the boundaries of informed consent. That is why we don't care what you think. We care about what you do, i.e. do you attempt to withhold equal human and civil rights from these people. What is more is I wouldn't call you evil. I just wouldn't hold you to be a just or caring person.
If you believe in the God of the Bible who had Israel take over land and stuff in the Old Testament, then you're evil.
No, but you do show inconsistency in how you accept a God who led a nation to conquer numerous tribes, one such example being the Midianites. Fact is that the problem doesn't just end there. The Midianites were defeated, and Moses took all the young boys, the young girls, and the women as their prisoners. They were POWs, prisoners of war. God then turns around and goes, no, you have to kill all of the male captives, as well as all of the female captives who have ever seen the touch of a man. Then you may take all the virgin girls, you may rape them and make them your wives. Hitler had better etiquette than Moses. Bloody Hitler. Well, that's war etiquette, if you will. Only if you compare the genocidal aspects do they suddenly sit on par with one another. And I say on par with one another. Do you see why we take an issue here? Particularly when apologists attempt to claim that you need God for morality, and here you have this man who is one of the very people that your faith is founded upon, killing little boys, raping little girls, and slaughtering POWs on his order.
You are immoral. Anybody who belongs to a church is immoral because of prior action sometime in history that a church somewhere did. They just over and over again, everybody, that belongs to a faith, especially a Christian, is immoral.
No, they are morally inconsistent. For example, on one hand, Christianity claims Jesus to be the physical embodiment of God, inspiring the New Testament to act as God's word and preach the objective holiness, the good word, if you will. However, Christians then ignore entire segments of the New Testament for being morally objectionable. For example, Ephesians 6:5. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Exodus chapter 21 tells us what slave here entails. It's not servant. That is, at least if you believe Jesus to be the same God as the Old Testament. If you were morally consistent, you would either drop the Bible or enforce slavery. But you don't do either of those things. Therefore, you are inconsistent. That's called talking the talk, but not walking the walk.
And my thing is, based on what? The guy also gave the example of the Catholic Church, and I guess you could throw in, like people on TBN and all that stuff who defraud people, and I think, well, you call these people immoral, and not all of those things that he said I would disagree with. I think there's definitely people that defraud people. There's the Catholic Church does a lot of stuff that I disagree with. So I don't totally disagree with it, but the basis for which he is deriving his definition of what is moral and what is not is coming from a Judeo-Christian worldview. It's wrong to steal.
As every society around the world, even prior Judaism, said, this is not just a Judeo-Christian value. That's utterly absurd. It is a near universal value.
According to our worldview in the West that is heavily influenced by Christianity. That's why we feel that it's wrong to defraud. And this was his complaint, though. His complaint was that Christianity is everywhere here. It's so infused within our culture. To him, he sees it everywhere. And to me, I think, well, it's for that very reason that you think defrauding people is wrong, that you say that, murder is wrong, of course, but he actually was not against partial birth abortion. But in general, he would call, like, the Crusades, he would say that was immoral. But the only reason he finds slaughtering people wrong is because of the Judeo-Christian country that he grew up in. And if it is his suggestion that we are to not get our morality from any type of religion, and especially not from Christianity, then I'm guessing that what he would put in its place is just to go by your own sense of morality, that we should make our own morality, that we should just go by, not by a book or any type of organized religion or any religion at all or any God, but just based on how we feel.
You have been sold such a falsehood. Moses goes up to Mount Sinai, talks to God, gets the commandments, comes down and slaughters 700 people. But according to you, it's apparently a Judeo-Christian value to view murder as wrong. America was founded as a secular nation. Europe has gone through secularization. Many of us are not inflicted by the foulness of the Bible on our basic sense of human decency. We have socially evolved beyond that state. How do I know? For one, you're not wearing any chains. That would be a Christian value. Slavery. But there are areas where religion does invade, for example, in discriminating against those of a certain sexuality, or certain gender types, or even basic gender binaries. It was a good Christian value to be able to rape your wife in the UK until the 90s, because a wife should submit to her husband. That was a Christian value. And feminism came along and fought long and hard to destroy marital immunity. It does not have control over who we are, and thanks to people like this who are attacking it, it is losing its hold on what we can do. The fact is that don't steal, don't kill, and don't rape are laws that are near universal. Just mess up your entire argument. I say near as I question the Judeo-Christians on the three basic tenets I just mentioned there, because the contents of the Bible show quite clearly otherwise. I mean, it really is irony that the people who rape, who steal and pillage and kill in the Bible get the free pass. Why? Because those laws, according to the Bible, are only for those who are Hebrews, your fellow Hebrews. However, I view them as being laws that should be applied to everybody, not just my own religion or race. So, yeah, that's a big problem for you. Last of all, a fetus is not a child. You need to get rid of such stupid claims. It lacks consciousness, it lacks viability, and a nervous system to detect anything beyond that of a low-order crustacean. Okay? You're just asking for more than human rights for something that is not even human. I mean, you couldn't ask for a parent to go on a surgery bed and be cut open, their organs be harvested for their child, yet you want that for something that isn't even a child.
And if that is the case, then he has absolutely no basis whatsoever to pronounce any type of judgment on anybody for doing anything. In the case of the defrauding people in the Catholic Church, why is that wrong? If somebody decides that they are a clergy of whatever kind and decides to pass themselves off, say like TBN or something, if they get on TV and they lie and they misrepresent themselves and they decide that they want to steal money from little old ladies by telling them that they're going to get a magic prayer cloth, why is that wrong? They've decided within themselves that that is their basis of morality. They've decided that that is what they want to do, that's what's right for them. And if their suggestion is that there is no transcendent standard,
it is wrong because human consciousness exists. That consciousness allows me to project myself onto others, to feel empathy. That gives all human life value. That value gives them all the same human and civil rights, at least in my eyes, and those rights include the right to give or withhold informed consent. You may say, well, that's just an is, thus it doesn't cross over into the oughts. But neither does your God. The only difference is that human consciousness is known to exist. If God exists, then how does that is equal an ought? Also, either he has arbitrarily decided what is right or wrong, in which case it's merely subjective on his level, and by the way, slavery according to the Bible is okay, or morality is above God, in which case we reach the same problem. God solves jack all.
Then these people are acting within the exact framework that he's proposing for the rest of society. He has no way to tell other people that they're wrong because they're doing exactly what he is proposing that they do. They are deciding for themselves what is moral. He has no basis to say that pedophilia is wrong, that murder is wrong, because if someone decides within themselves that they're within their own morality framework that they want to murder someone and steal their stuff, then that's what he has no way to tell them that they're wrong. Based on what?
Informed consent. Is that really that hard to understand? When a child is raped, it's not the action of the sex that is wrong. It is the fact that the child is harmed because they cannot give informed consent that is wrong. Something is wrong not because of an action, but because of a victim, direct or indirect. The fact is that going God has no explanatory power. It also doesn't explain why killing POWs or raping them is wrong as the God of the Bible says they are right. People seem to forget that actions which have a perpetrator and a victim at least have two people involved. One person's decision may only go as far as another person's decision allows in an interaction. It is called an interaction.
If morality is absolutely individual, then there is absolutely no way to tell anybody that they're wrong for any reason. And I've never heard, and I've asked atheists this before, and I never get a good answer. And I find it so odd because, again, I tend to get the most appeals to morality from atheists. They constantly want to tell me how wrong I am for believing in a God that that allows the Jews to kill off a whole nation, or how immoral I am because I don't believe that homosexuality is good. But based on what?
Based on human decency. We are both people. Our lives have value. That value is equal, and thus should allow us equal rights. Your rights end where my rights begin, and vice versa, thus forming the basis for the right to consent and the right to withhold consent, i.e. liberty. Basic humanist philosophy. No magic required.
I mean, if that is that is my interpretation of morality, and it's not, I'm going by the Bible, but I'm just saying, if they have no way to tell me that I'm wrong. And I've heard the argument that, well, for the good of society, well, why should I care about society? If you're saying that I should go by my own moral compass that I've decided, well, and we live and we die and there's nothing after this, then all I have is this moment. And all I need to worry about is me, so why should I give a flying flip about what happens in the future and the good of society? I won't be around forever. Why not take and steal and murder and do whatever I want for the good of society?
Because society consists of more individuals than you who will be more successful and live a higher standard of life than the individual. For one thing, it allows for the dissemination of information. Do you have the ability to learn a millennium of medical, culinary and construction skills required for health? Can you do that without others first of all teaching you? What would be your companion prospects if you isolated yourself from society? Would you receive medical and social care in your times of need, or would you merely die the moment you fell ill and could no longer feed yourself? Would you just die a miserable life alone, having starved across the majority of it? It is possible to learn these skills and leave society. These individuals are often called hermits. If you want to live that way, then do so. But if you left and then came back to try and steal, to murder and rape those who were still in society, you would face the entire society, not just the individual you wronged. This post-apocalyptic breakdown only works if everyone is as fragmented as you. The moment several people get together on an agreed basis, you are no longer at an advantage.
I often hear also that Hitler was a Christian, and that's not true, but that's another video.
He was, in fact, a Christian. The only source that states otherwise is Hitler's Table Talk, a book which has been found to be so poorly translated that in many cases it is fraudulent in its statements. Here's a quote from the apparent 27th of February given by Hitler's Table Talk. Our epoch will certainly see the end of the disease of Christianity. Now here is the same quote, properly translated and given with the 3 prior sentences for context. See if you can spot the difference. I have never found pleasure in maltreating others, even if I know it isn't possible to maintain oneself in the world without force. Life is granted only to those who fight the hardest. It is the law of life. Defend yourself. The time in which we live has the appearance of the collapse of this idea. It can still take 100 or 200 years. I am sorry that, like Moses, I can only see the promised land from a distance. That is how poor the translation is. Hitler is in fact saying that in 100 years or 200 years, the idea that you need force or the threat of force to maintain yourself in the world will disappear. Ironic and hypocritical considering, but no. The disease of Christianity, people like to claim, does not exist. But okay, let us say that you have some factual basis for your claim. The majority of Nazi Germany was certainly Christian, and the church was most certainly responsible for the anti-Semitism at the time. You got nowhere to go.
And then they used that as another appeal to morality. Well, Hitler he wasn't a Christian, but he was going by what he thought was right, which is exactly what they tell other people that they should be doing. He decided that the Germans were the better people, everybody else was inferior, the Jews were bad, handicapped people were bad, they were useless, not even real bad, they're useless. You know, the society that they are proposing has been tried and it is horrific.
Nazi Germany was predominantly a Christian nation, not a secular one, and certainly not a humanist nation. Take a look at Scandinavia, however, and the nations there. High social well-being, high liberty ratings, and yet entirely secular. Isn't that funny? Really disagrees completely with what you have just said. Hell, in the US alone, compare the left-wing secular states to the right-wing church states along the Bible Belt. Lower teen pregnancies, lower STIs, better general well-being, lower inequality. It's still Alarms me, though, that you can't deal with the notion of informed consent.
And it's that they can't see past their own, and I don't even know if I would say they can. I would say they are unwilling, and they don't care to see past this blatant inconsistency, to see the consequences of the ideas that they are proposing.
I hope you see the hypocritical irony here. You opened with the misrepresentation of what a fallacy was in claiming that a person answering a value-burdened question with a value-based answer was fallacious. Now you just made an actual argument from consequences. You have just gone, if God isn't real and atheists are correct, this is what the world will be like. Therefore, atheists should lie to themselves and accept God. I'm sorry to have to call you out on this, but it is hypocritical.
Yeah, I hear it a lot, and I've yet to get a good answer. I don't think there is a good answer, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there and kind of talk about that. Have you guys, I guess, you can talk out down in the comment section. Have you guys been in a conversation about this before? What do you think about this? How do you hear atheists making the same types of statements when in your interactions? So I'd like to see your opinions. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
You see, this is the difference between you and me. I want to learn. I actually want to pursue this. You created your video to act as an echo chamber, to make yourself feel better. I don't know what to say. You just want this to be like a band-aid when someone was critical of your position. You even state that in your comment section of your video. If you actually want to learn, to open your mind, whether or not you lose your faith or keep it, that will be done by seeking out those who do not agree with you, not hiding from them. My channel is always open to converse on such matters. So I'm sorry that I've had to get rather harsh and heated at some points, but I just will not stand for falsehoods, intentional or non-intentional. It's part of that notion around always moving forward. So I'll pop this video over to you and I hope to see a response.